Every time you open your phone or computer, you're walking onto a battleground for the most valuable resource of the 21st century, your attention. The term attention economy was coined by Nobel laureate Herbert Simon, who in 1971 wrote that a wealth of information would create a poverty of attention. Fundamental to the attention economy is the recognition of human attention as a scarce resource.
That's not a bad photo. Laura posted a new album. A new video from John Oliver. Look at all these other videos. A new follower on Twitter. A few hot takes from the debate last night. This guy has a Wikipedia page. Oh, he grew up near New York. I grew up near New York. Just catch up on Instagram. Text from mom. Text from dad. Hey, dad, watch this kid shoot a firework at his dad. Send. Holy shit. It's been 40 minutes. Every time I look up after being stuck in my phone like this, I know it's going to happen again. And most of the time, I don't feel great about it. This is what it's like being a part of the attention economy. In his famous 1997 Wired article, Attention Shoppers, theoretical physicist Michael Goldhaber states that the economics of industrialized nations, especially that of the United States, have dramatically shifted. An increasing number of workers are no longer involved directly in the production, transportation, and distribution of material goods, and instead earn their living managing or dealing with information in some form. Most call this an information economy. But he rejects that label. By definition, economics is the study of how a society uses its scarce resources. And with the internet, our scarcity is definitely not information. Any piece of information you want. What product should you buy? What restaurant should you go to? Who's this guy? All of that is literally seconds away. So what does Goldhaber think flows through cyberspace and is scarce and desirable? As he explains, no one would put anything on the internet without the hope of obtaining some. It's called attention. And the economy of attention, not information, is the natural economy of cyberspace. And he's right, information consumes our attention, making it a scarce resource. We only have so many hours that we can glue ourselves to technology and the infinity of information it presents. We live in this attention economy, where you succeed by getting people to spend the most time, to allocate their attention to you or your product. And you dominate the economy if you can make people develop a habit where they spend time to get their attention and hold it. It's why YouTube videos have titles like this, why traditional news sources are struggling, and why BuzzFeed is successful. It's why politics is no longer so much about policy as it is about who can bring the most attention to themselves or someone else. It's why Netflix has autoplay, why most social networks have an endless scroll. Look at advertisements from Old Spice or Mountain Dew. Their commercials are just trying to get you to look at them. Forget information, it's all about relevance.
Don't thank me. Thank the savings.
You can't skip this Geico ad because it's already over.
But what about my problem at the beginning of the video? Lost in a sea of clicking and scrolling around distracting, mostly unfulfilling content. Surely that's a self-inflicted issue. I should be able to close all of these tabs and apps that distract me. Well, it's not that simple. Social networks run the attention economy. They need you on their site constantly to succeed as a business, to click and see ads. They need your attention to keep this revenue loop open. Facebook designs its algorithm to show you everything it thinks will grab your attention. Your past history scrolling, where you've clicked something extremely depressing or uplifting. In other words, they've psychologically engineered a lot of their websites to literally fight against your brain. They want to keep you from closing anything, and they're really fucking good at it. These social networks have hundreds of years of psychological studies in linguistics, sound, design, and social behavior at their disposal. The perfect ding sound, the red notification, the like, the love. It's an endless flow of rewarding stimuli that keep you coming back. So what is the effect this has on us over the course of a day? Well, that depends on what you want to do with your day. And you may be thinking, who are you to tell us what's good for humans? Well, I don't mean to be an arbiter of truth or claim to know what's good for humans. But this constant distraction has a pretty drastic effect on day-to-day life. Take, for example, a text message. It seems like a simple distraction, but it undoubtedly breaks our focus on whatever we're doing. Well, a study by Gloria Mark at UC Irvine found that it takes us, on average, 23 minutes to resume focus after any interruption. Even worse, we do 2 different tasks before coming back to our original project. And every time you're interrupted, you self-interrupt over the next hour more often than if you hadn't been interrupted. Now, add the fact that we check our phones on average 221 times a day, or every 4.3 minutes. It's scary in many ways, not because you're not getting more, quote, important stuff done, but because you're not necessarily living your life how you want to live your life. You're losing the ability to make choices that matter to you. We're just living for that quick burst of dopamine that comes from liking, swiping, and refreshing. Any feeling of banality or loneliness is quickly replaced by picking up a device, or as Louis C.K. says,
you never feel completely sad or completely happy. You
Right.
just feel kind of satisfied with your product.
Yes.
And then you die.
Working in the advertising industry, if any of you have worked in this space, this might be obvious, but this, there's a deep fundamental gap here between, the goals we have and the goals our technologies have for us. And to me, that's the opposite of what technology is for. Technology is for helping us achieve these goals. I think there is this kind of inconvenient truth that we either kind of ignore or maybe don't know about a lot of the time, which is that the attention economy, by and large, is not on our side. Its goals are not our goals. We kind of trust these things to be GPSs for our lives, assuming that they're doing the things that maybe even their marketing projects say they're doing for us. But really, they're directing us toward these petty kind of engagement goals. And this is very well known by the people who create them. The CEO of Netflix a little while back said in addition to Snapchat and YouTube, one of their major competitors was sleep. And then he reiterated it, I think, a month or two ago. Steve Jobs did not let his children use the iPad, right? So there's a knowledge that there are these externalities of the attention economy, so to speak, that are out there affecting the world, but we just haven't taken these into account in kind of our analysis or design of digital technologies. And behind all of this is kind of just the nature of digital technologies, which is amplifying the need for us to kind of bring our own boundaries to the situation. So, for instance, Pokemon Go, where it's this game, and now it's literally all the time, everywhere. So, in the past, a game was this kind of system of interaction bounded in space or time somewhere. The soccer game at this field on this day. But with something like Pokemon Go, it's the game is everywhere all the time. So we have to, the boundaries that were kind of part of the world get pushed onto us. So we have to put those in place ourselves. And like Goethe said, who would be great must be able to limit himself. And I think it's harder for us to achieve that type of greatness now because there's so much more boundary setting in our own lives that we have to do. Another amplifying factor here is something that I often call the treadmill of incompetence. So if you think about the amount of time it took technologies to reach 150 million users throughout history. So the telephone was 89 years, so multiple generations. TV, 38 years, mobile phone, 14 years. As we go deeper and deeper into the digital era, it becomes shorter and shorter to the point where the product may change between the time you use it and the next day, such that you can't ever get to that point of competence. You can't ever master the technology. We're always in this perpetual state of learning. We can do something with the technologies, but not completely master it to bend it toward our own ends. Broadly speaking, what's happened in the last couple of decades is our knowledge of psychology, and particularly our non-rational biases, vulnerabilities in our brain, non-rational dynamics of decision-making. We've developed an enormous catalog of these things. And at the same time, this system has emerged on the internet, a system of measurement, message delivery, optimization, experimentation. And these two kind of trends have come into conversation now in the attention economy. And what this means now is that this industrial scale persuasion is now the primary business model of our first really major global communications medium. And this isn't widely talked about. We still call companies like Facebook or Twitter social media companies, but they're not selling social media. They're selling our attention. They're in the business of persuasion. But I think another factor that makes this so urgent to look at is because this power to shape people's attention, to persuade people toward one end or another, is increasingly centralized in the hands of just a few people, a few companies in one state, in one country. And it's a weird irony that the whole point of the internet was that it was decentralized in its infrastructure, but then in the platforms that have emerged on it have been so centralized. So literally there are people who would probably fit in this room who have their hands on levers that could control the attentional habits of over 2 billion people on planet Earth. That's really striking to me. What I realized when I was working at Google and looking across the industry at the state of the attention economy and how little it was being talked about in society, and then feeling its effects in my own life, honestly. That there was more technology around me than ever before, but it was harder somehow to do what I wanted to do. I felt we had made the same mistake that Aldous Huxley talked about when he was lamenting that defenders of freedom in his own time had failed to take into account man's almost infinite appetite for distractions.